we wake.
It's our last sunrise on our week at Myrtle Beach, and I'm so sad to leave. Last night, Jared and I spent the evening on the beach. I was complaining to him about how sad I was to leave, and he was remarking that he was surprised because typically I'm not sad to leave vacation. I'm ready to get home and get back into my normal routine. So after he said he was surprised, he went on to say he thought it was probably because at this vacation, unlike most others, I was very present. I wasn't just stuck in a book or on my phone or letting Jared and Adeline head to the beach without me or go to the movies without me. Instead, I actually participated. And after listening to him, I decided that he was right, per usual. I wasn't ready to leave yet because I was truly enjoying my experience. I'm hesitant to even share this because it feels like a peculiar problem to have. Who doesn't enjoy a vacation? Who isn't sad when it's time to leave? Well, typically, I look forward to the end of vacation and I'm always ready to leave and get back to routine. But alas, even though I do not want it to end, it's time to go home.
We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right.
In this video, I wanted to share with you what worked when it came to being present with God, Jared, and Adeline on this vacation.
You and I, we got it.
Now, if you saw part 1, you're going to remember that I had picked out a theme for this vacation. I've never done this before, but it sounded like a good idea. And my theme was playful connection. I am neither playful nor necessarily very connected, so I knew this was going to be a stretch. But after spending a couple of weeks praying, asking God, ruminating over it, I knew these were the correct 2 words that I was to try to focus on. I wanted to playfully connect with God, with Jared, my husband, and with Adeline, my 19-year-old daughter. And I left the last video in part 1 saying, I'm going to be outlining the book of Isaiah, but just using 1 word per chapter, my own summation. If I could boil down Isaiah chapter 1 in 1 word, what would that word be? As soon as I hit end on that video, I started working on the outline for Isaiah. Despite how grumpy I look here, it was actually extremely enjoyable. So I didn't want to get into the nitty-gritty of what I actually learned in Isaiah. I wanted to tell you more of what I learned about the process. I thought it might be more helpful because you can apply it to other books of the Bible, etc. Number 1, I am loving outlining Isaiah. What the outline has done, even though I feel fairly familiar with the book of Isaiah, it's one of my favorite books of the Bible. It's helping me see the big picture of the book of Isaiah. Because right now I'm not down getting in the weeds. I'm instead kind of like, I don't know, this is a stupid analogy, but think about being in a drone and just seeing the tops of the trees of Isaiah. It's like I'm just looking up at the top and the whole forest, and it's been really helpful. Number 2, there was no way for me to boil down an entire chapter to 1 word. There was no way. So to be able to see the tops of the trees, 1 word wasn't cutting it. Because I really want to wrap my hands around the book of Isaiah in a way that I can hopefully memorize these words, this outline. I'm working on memorizing it because it's going to give me a really good big picture of the book of Isaiah. So you'll see here the blue that's written underneath just gives me more context, hopefully to help the yellow stick in my brain. I'm not trying to memorize the blue, it's just to give more context to that yellow. I love it when you guys comment. And this is what Jen said last week on this vacation part 1. She said, book of Isaiah and playfully connect. Seems like an oxymoron or something like that. And Jen, it really made me chuckle because I was like, oh yes, Jen is correct. The one thing, putting my expectations way too high, was I thought I would get through the whole book of Isaiah. It is a very depressing book until about chapter 40. Well, I only got through chapters 23. It was all judgments and woes and portents. Jen, it was a real downer. I'm not even kidding. It was a real downer.
But you can't stop Debbie Downer.
I mean, I think I would still call it playful connection because I took such delight in the actual process of outlining the book. Number 3, even though it was very sober reading, this is what the book of Isaiah does to me. It reminded me of the holiness of God. Isaiah's writings just do this for me. They remind me of who he is, the Holy One of Israel, over and over and over again. It puts my heart in a place of worship. That kind of connection with God, I wouldn't call it playful, that's the wrong word, but I would call it really meaningful, and that's what it did for me. I clearly defined my hows, H-O-W-S. First, it was coming up with my theme, yes, playfully connect. So those 2 words I was using to focus me. Playfully connecting was where I wanted to go. So I knew where I wanted to go. The next question is, well, how am I gonna get there? I always think of the how as little footsteps. So the how, the footsteps, are taking me to where I wanna go. When I say strategy, this is all that I mean. I'm not sure that's the exact definition of strategy, but it's my definition. My footsteps, my how for playfully connecting with Jared and Adeline were buying games for the beach.
We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life.
And quite frankly, we are a family of thinkers and creatives. We are not athletes.
With you and I, the future is bright.
And obviously, Adeline's parents have never taught her how to fly a kite.
Keep letting it out. Keep letting it out.
My footsteps, my how, it was making sure I had pre-packed food that we could actually stay on the beach and eat on the beach, spend the day on the beach. I knew that Adeline really would want to be on the beach all day long. The how was preparing myself, both on the inside, picturing what that would be, and it sort of helps me do the things that I'm not naturally necessarily want to do, to picture them ahead of time, to say, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stay out on the beach all day long, and telling myself, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun.
Sure, Jan.
Just telling myself that. That was a part of the footsteps to help get me to playfully connect. And what I had to be really careful of is that my hows were bendable and flexible. Well, so you can't playfully connect and become a drill sergeant, right? With myself or those around me. I'm not necessarily good at being bendable or flexible on anything. So I had to really work on doing that, and it worked. I will say it was at times a lot of effort because it was going against my natural grain. Yes, to have fun was a little effortful. My hope is that this gives you some context for your vacation that maybe you're going on in the next couple months, that it might spark 1 or 2 ideas for you to be like, oh, I think 80% of that was terrible, but this 20%, I think I can adjust to my personality, to my family, to my current stage of life, and that it might be helpful to you. So, for your mother and her sunbathing strategy, yeah, how Dunn does that seem now? She was up most of the night with maybe mild sun poisoning.